My name is Mona Sabao. I am the president of the Marketing Club, and today we will be presenting our panelists at first. First, we have Kayla Gentz, who is the senior recruiter at the Talent Development Department at Fleishman-Hillard. She manages the full life cycle national recruitment experience, including sourcing, networking, screening, recruiting, marketing, and closing top-tier talent. Then we have Carrie Lemke, Director of Campus Selection at Northwestern Mutual. She's as the Director of Campus Selection. A few of her job duties include planning, coordinating, and executing any recruiting promotions, campaigns on campus, executing the office campus recruiting plan to reach activity and contract goals. She develops centers of influence on each identified campus in the St. Louis area. She also supports all campus candidates through their selection and onboarding process, post-offer and accepting process. Then we have Dr. Perry Drake, who's the co-chair and associate teaching professor of marketing at the University of Missouri St. Louis. His specialty involved digital and social media marketing strategy and communications. Prior to his role at UMSL, he was a professor at NYU for 14 years. Last but not least, we have our moderator, Lisa Fikki. She is the Business Internship Program Coordinator at UMSL at the College of Business Administration. She currently manages one of the largest university internship programs in the St. Louis region as the Internship and Student Engagement Coordinator for the College of Business Administration at UMSL. She facilitates internship opportunities for business students by partnering with more than 300 employees, 7 business advisory boards, representing 7 business academic areas, including entrepreneurial startups, Fortune 100 and 500 companies. Her efforts promote a highly capable, ready workforce in transitioning from academics to careers for undergraduate, graduate, and international students. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. That was a mouthful. I didn't realize it was that long. Okay, I think that must have come off the webpage, but it's great to see everyone. This is wonderful. I'm so excited to talk to everyone. And certainly I think there's a great message here for our students, because everybody's living in this really these uncertain times and don't really know how to make the most of navigating. Obviously, one of the things that students are always interested in doing is finding out how they can get an internship, what things they need to do, from their resume to research skills to preparation. But now we have lumped on top of all of that this whole thing with remote work and virtual interviews and a whole variety of things that just kind of add on to it. So we thank you for helping us sort all of those things out. And I think we have a great panel here that's going to be able to help us with that. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you for inviting me, Carrie and Mona and everyone, to help moderate this. So let me just kind of get to my questions. And I'm not going to address them specifically, but if anybody wants to just step forward and say, hey, I got that, that would be really great. So let me just get to my questions. Okay, so I guess one of the things that I thought in light of this whole, I don't even know, I don't like to call it pandemic, but certainly that's what it is, but how it's changed the way we work. What would the panel, and it could be towards anyone, what do you find are the biggest challenges that you have encountered right now, or in the last year, I guess, during this whole different working environment? The biggest challenges that you are faced with in your area at the current time. And that could be the field, topic, industry, whatever area you would like to address.
I can go first. So I know with my job personally, as being in my, description of what I do, I'm a campus recruiter, right? So my job is to be on campuses, chatting with students all day about our internship opportunities, full-time, all that stuff. Obviously, that looks completely different now. And even me personally, I just started in this role in April. So I've had to learn a new job while also my team leaders are learning a new way of doing stuff. So that's been the biggest challenge, but it's been exciting to be creative. What else can we do? What's different? What are students needing? And then on the other side too of our industry, specifically here at Northwestern Mutual, it's actually worked out great for our advisors because they're able, I mean, they can do their entire job from home, right? I mean, they're working with their clients. So I guess, again, I never want to make this like super positive. I know this has been hard for a lot of people, but that has been a great thing that's come out of it, is that we're able to connect with others outside of St. Louis and help them with their financial planning and all that stuff. So that would just be what we're going through now.
So it sounds like you're saying that there has kind of been a silver lining to this whole thing.
I'm a half full gal, so yes.
Well, that's awesome. And I actually look at it that way too. It's like sometimes you just have to kind of make those adjustments to new things. And I think those that can roll, I see Kayla smiling back there like she really wants to say something. So feel free, Kayla, to jump in because it's always helpful.
Well, and I think, the biggest challenge is, how do you explain culture? We are a communication agency. We're a global firm. And when you're a recruiter and you have candidates say, please describe your culture. Well, my culture is sitting at home by myself. Like, this is my culture. But we really, kind of exactly what Carrie said, we've been able to see the silver lining. Last year was one of the best years we've ever had as an agency. And I think it's just because we do have that global presence where we were able to really take initiative of what was taking place on the EMEA and APAC side of the world. So by the time it got to the United States with COVID specifically, we were taking care of our employees and making sure that they were physically safe at home, but also their mental space. And so that has been evolved around how we describe our culture, which really still makes us all connected together, but also that we really care about our employees and then also the work that we're doing for our clients. And so it's been challenging because we still miss those conversations at the coffee pot that everybody has. And we do know we will eventually get back into an office setting. We won't be an agency or company that will be continued remote down the road. We will eventually get back in, but that's been a challenge in regards to just what we're dealing with right now, with having to explain what does our culture look like when everybody's at home and doing virtual calls.
What a great point. I think that's awesome. That's awesome. Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I think it's a great point. I think that's another area that when you think about companies, how they have to kind of maintain their culture when everybody's kind of in their own culture. I think that's really a fact. Thank you for that. And so with that being said, for the panel, are there any job search tools that are on the rise that may have come about as a result of the pandemic, or maybe that you're leaning more heavily on that we might not be aware of that could be a real benefit to these remote environments and to students in particular in search of opportunities? Anyone?
I think when it comes to the social platforms, it's easier still to just go straight to LinkedIn. A lot of times we just post on our own www.fleishman-hillard.com, and all of these other job boards take it off our site, including LinkedIn. So we really don't know exactly who it all reaches, but that's been the most success, is still just going to LinkedIn. And then occasionally, if there's a more of a niche skill set that we're looking for, we may go to different communities or different organizations that enhance or promote that type of talent that we would potentially go to. So giving an example, I'm working on a lot of CSR positions right now. So I'm going to more of an audience within that sustainability skill set. So LinkedIn is still probably our number one resource.
It is.
Lisa, can I just jump in quick to ask kind of something? So, and I guess Carrie as well. So I know some of my students have been getting, let's say, remote, and Lisa, I'm sure you're fully aware, remote sort of internships outside of the St. Louis area, other states. Is there a better way students can, again, that's one maybe positive from this is, you can expand your reach outside of St. Louis. You don't just have to have an internship here. Is there a better way students can be searching for some of those other cool opportunities, that there might be a really great one in New York or Chicago? How can they find out those opportunities more easily?
So I actually did some research on this because I was curious too. And I found a website called flexjobs.com where it allows you to research companies that may be a more flexible environment. I personally can't speak to that just because we do, as much as our internship and job is a hybrid situation, we are looking for people in the St. Louis area. But I wanted to do some research and be like, yeah, where else could you go outside besides LinkedIn? And I found that website. So I'm sure you could do some searching on there.
What a great, yeah, that's it actually, when you think about how we kind of, our environments have kind of closed in on us, we've kind of expanded in a lot of ways. And one of the things that I talk about with students a lot is how to really utilize LinkedIn to their benefit during these times, and to really get them to focus on making connections, reaching out to people, things that they wouldn't normally think about because they're in their day-to-day, going to class, going to do meeting people, going places like we all do. But LinkedIn has been almost a lifesaver for a lot of us because it's how we can stay connected professionally with opportunities as well. So do you think there are any ways that that LinkedIn is being used differently? And what would you say to that?
I'm going to jump in. I'll just say Clubhouse. So I just joined Clubhouse, totally excited about it. And again, I know it's by invitation only. So there might be maybe a handful of our audience members here maybe that have invites, but I can see that. I don't know what Kayla and Carrie think, but I could see that as being a game changer. I think, Lisa, as far as true, authentic conversations within your community and ways to connect up. I was just listening when I was at the gym earlier this morning, jumping into a Clubhouse where a bunch of people were talking about digital and social strategy. I mean, it's pretty amazing, and people are DMing each other. So anyway, Kayla and Carrie, I don't know if you guys are into Clubhouse at all, or where you see that coming into
You're
play.
cooler than me. I am not.
Never heard of it myself, so I'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, you will. Well, I'll send you an invite, Kayla, if you'd like one. So,
Thanks.
because once you get invited in, you get 4 invites to invite like 4 other people. So
Ooh,
yeah,
cool.
right.
Well, I even think you bring up a good point too, of just even on a social media platform like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, using your current network that you already have outside of LinkedIn, just sharing what you're hoping to do, right? The personal brand statement, this is what I want to do. I know I've seen a lot of people recently post their resume like, hey, I'm hoping somebody else can help me out. And I've actually tagged and been able to connect my connections from there. And I mean, that is brave, right? It's a sense of vulnerability of like, hey, people help me out, but that's what we're here for, right? So you could do that on Instagram, share what you want to accomplish, what you're doing now, Twitter, I don't know, whatever platform you love being on, people will attach to that. So
yeah, I mean, that was how I actually really found out about Clubhouse. Is I saw one of my old students from NYU had thanked everybody in the Clubhouse for helping her with polishing up her LinkedIn profile. And I thought, well, what in the heck is I had not even heard of Clubhouse. And then I messaged her, and then she's telling me all about it. And then one of my other NYU students then sent me an invite. And so the perfect example, just like you said, use the social media to help connect and polish. Yeah.
That's great. And I'm excited to hear about Clubhouse. I saw that you posted that, Carrie, but I was like, how does that work? And how do I do that, right?
Yeah, well, I was kind of the same way until a couple of days ago. Yeah.
So you think it's going to really grow then?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Students tend to be kind of, with a lot of times have the blinders on and kind of focus on school, and then they come to me and they say, hey, I really would like to find an internship. But what I really do is I help them to tap into the resources that would be out there for anyone, and help them to kind of encourage them to start making those moves themselves. And LinkedIn has been a big part of that, especially over the last year or so. are there better ways that that students could utilize LinkedIn besides some of the tools? I guess what I'm probably getting at is, would you recommend them, other than putting like their brand statement out, do you recommend that they reach out to a recruiter? Do you recommend that they send a note to them? Being that you're the experts on the panel, kind of like to hear about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I can speak on that a little bit. I would absolutely recommend that. That's super cool. And especially if, you know how sometimes students will post about their new internship or job and they'll thank their mentors or someone through the interview process, connect with them. That's the person that helped lift them up, get them hired at this company. And then you can reach out and say, hey, I'm friends with, because we surround ourselves with people that are similar to us. So you're more likely maybe to get that response back. So that's just like a little tip that I've kind of told to our interns as well.
Oh, that's so great to hear, because it really kind of syncs with what I have been telling students as well, is to really try to actually be strategic. I tell them, you can apply for 60 jobs and it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall, but if you connect with people, if you reach out through LinkedIn, connect strategically with people that are recruiters or maybe UMSL alum that are working in those industries, you're going to raise your success factor quite a bit. And not only that, you might get some great advice on your resume or on some job tip or interview skills. So there's a great way, like I said, to take advantage of the silver lining that's presented to us. So
I mean, I always tell my students, Lisa, Kayla, and Carrie, that, you know, I don't really care. Connect up with your mother's best friend. You have no idea who she's connected with. She could know the HR rep at Boeing, and you're wanting to land a job there. And that's why you want to build your network as broadly as possible, so you can have your avenues and pathways into some of these opportunities. So, yeah. Kayla, I'm assuming you.
And we're structured a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're structured a little bit different. We actually, because we have 85 offices in 35 countries around the world, we have designated intern coordinators who are different than like our recruitment team. But that's not to say if you reach out to me on LinkedIn saying, hi, I would like to flag that I applied to your internship for publications, you know, that is something that I'd be more than happy to at least flag to the intern coordinators who review the applicants, to get them on their way, because of the hundreds of amount of applicants that we get through. The one thing I do want to flag though is just follow the instructions on the job descriptions for the internships. So for us specifically, we are a communication firm, so we are looking for strong writers and communicators. So if we're looking for samples of your writing, or a cover letter, or a resume, reference letters, that's really the first thing that we look at with applicants, is those who can follow instructions, who have followed the application process, because then that's when we know, okay, they have the right idea or the thought process to be successful, because ultimately our interns, they are doing real life work. They're in front of the clients. They are doing billable hour work. It's a great opportunity. And anytime someone sees Fleishman-Hillard on their internship as an intern on their resume, they immediately get put top of list for that communication industry or that communication position, because they know they were up to speed, doing really great work for us as an intern. So those are some things that I just want to flag during the application process, or what they may find off LinkedIn that would probably transition them back to the main page of that company, is just to follow instructions on how you would to apply, because then that will get in front of the recruiter or the intern coordinator who's reviewing the applicants.
Well, that's great information. Thank you for sharing that. It's very important that obviously they follow directions.
It's simple, but you'd be amazed how many people miss out on those basic minimal things. And then it's like, okay, so this person did follow instructions, so they're going to be a little bit more top of chain.
Gotcha. I wanted to address another question to the panel. pertaining to LinkedIn, do you feel that LinkedIn Premium would be a worthwhile investment for students? It's more premium, it's the higher end, more access. Yeah. What do you think?
I think you could get away with not doing it if, again, you're strategic.
I agree.
I think if you commit 1, maybe 2 hours a day or whatever that looks like, whatever your urgency of getting a job or internship is, I think you can do without it. Even me on my side, I've got I don't know which tier I have, and I go back and forth of like, is this really worth it even for me? Mm-hmm. So again, that's up to you guys. Again, I think if you were strategic, you could totally do without it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think what it
save your money
is beneficial to the students. I use it occasionally, but that's when I'm searching for speakers for my conference and I need to kind of work some different avenues, but yeah.
Being junior or entry level into their career, it's not as important. And I think now with the world on how it is changing to that more of that virtual avenue, there will be other ways to find specific positions, companies, go to their own company website, other job boards. You'll have a lot more visibility elsewhere.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so kind of talking, we know LinkedIn is one fantastic tool that everybody should be tapping into. Students should be using that, and you'd be surprised at how many of them aren't. We talk to them all the time. I'm sure Perry gets. Actually, if I'm not handling them, I'm sending them Perry's way. So it's certainly an important and considerably important resource for students who are trying to not just build their network, but obviously connect with great opportunities. I want to kind of touch on some areas regarding resumes and cover letters, kind of getting into the nitty-gritty. From the panel, do you feel cover letters are still as important as they used to be?
I can talk on that piece since that is something we go back and forth all the time. It's still part of our application process, but do the hiring managers look at it? Probably not, just because it has to get through us as recruiters. We really go straight to the resume. That ultimately is one thing that I love working with and part of my job. Want to flag that if any of you on this call have any questions about resume, please let me know. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can email me at kayla.gentz@fleishman.com, and I'd be more than happy to schedule a quick one-on-one to go over your resume. But the biggest thing that we want to see is what you have done in your current role. So whether if that is working in retail or if you have an internship, please be detailed in what you have done. The more information, the better. And as you gain experience, it's okay if you are over a page. Now, do we want to have 2 pages, 3 pages with having just like 7 internships? Probably not. You probably can make it a little bit more relatable to the job you're applying for. But I would keep your resume precise, but very also detailed to the job you're applying for and tailored to the job you're applying for. And then use your LinkedIn profile for some of that extracurricular pieces, whether if it is the activities you're a part of or the nonprofits that you've been a part of, your hobbies, your interests, build your LinkedIn profile that way. And then you can make sure you have the really detailed information in your resume, and then it'll go back and forth because the hiring managers will still always go back to your LinkedIn profile to see some of that other information. But again, I'd be more than happy to schedule, quick conversations with candidate or with students to go over their resumes to provide some guidance and suggestions. But cover letters, if it's required, I would still follow the instructions. But ultimately, the resume is the biggest piece because when you look at research, the hiring manager takes maybe 6 seconds total to review your resume.
If I could just jump in quick, Lisa, so to piggyback off something Kayla said. So I'm glad you said all that you said, Kayla, because I stress to my students to bullet out the details of that job that you had as a retail clerk. Did you ever train somebody? Did you open? Add in all of those accomplishments that you did, bullet them out. And that LinkedIn is kind of that 360-degree view. A paper resume is a little flatter, so put in those other accomplishments, that you've done, extracurricular activities, volunteer opportunities, all of that sort of stuff. And I did just post a video I did, which is about a 12-minute video a couple years ago on those very things, which Lisa's fully aware of, for any of the students to snag to help set up that proper profile and all of that sort of stuff. So.
And I tell students all the time, thank you, Carrie. I tell students all the time, I actually ask them to put their LinkedIn URL on their resume. How do you feel about that, panel? Because it does add depth to that flat piece of paper. I actually put it there because I actually used to be a recruiter as well. And I've had to go through hundreds and hundreds of resumes, and it is a marketing message. So that's what I'm saying to our students, that they need to be sending a clear message in 6 seconds or less. So, but one of those things is that could create even additional interest is I tell them to put their URL there, because they can count on a recruiter probably going on to LinkedIn and looking at them in a little more detail if they have an interest. Could you add on to that at all?
Yes, I would 100% agree. I actually spoke to the athletic department last night, and I said, add your resume to your LinkedIn and vice versa. I am 100% more likely to reach out to you because your resume is flat. I like the description of that. And then your LinkedIn could be more of your personality, right? It's that handshake at a career fair that we're missing out on, where you can kind of create your brand statement and your personality. And then also, if you got your resume on your LinkedIn, that's so cool too, because I can now download it and add it to my list for that week of people I want to reach out to. So I totally think that is an added bonus.
I think, and that's what I have been actually recommending students do. They don't really need and actually, technically in writing classes at the university, they're doing the standard old school form, with the name, address, block form, resume with their physical address. I tell them they don't need their physical address there yet.
No.
But put on the things, their contact, their email, and their LinkedIn URL, because those are the things that are really going to have the most impact up front. Anybody else?
Kayla, did you want to say anything else? I know you have to head off for a meeting with some high school girls, I believe. Do you want to say anything before you leave?
It's actually junior high, but yes, it's the
high.
same type of conversation. It's just unfortunately it conflicted with the same schedule. But I do appreciate, allowing the opportunity to speak to you all. Again, I provided my contact information in the chat that I'd be more than happy to follow up with any additional questions in regards to what it looks like as a recruiter. If anybody has any interest in communications, whether if it's digital, social, public affairs, public engagement, copywriting, and then this traditional PR, this is the best place to be at, because we're one of the largest firms in the world. So be more than happy to connect with anyone and everyone, but I really do appreciate your time and for allowing me to be on the panel today.
No, Kayla, I think that's so kind that you offer that to the students and those that are on the in the attendance today. That's really nice. I think Mona is gonna, if it's okay, share both of your emails with everybody that's in the group.
Yep, okay. I shared it in the
Okay.
chat as well. So again, have to reach out. Just let me know, hey, I was one of the UMSL students, just so I know who you are and not an actual candidate right now. But that way I'd be able to provide the right recommendations.
Great. Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, because I did want to ask, there's one question that I've got that I'm going to ask everyone to address, but unfortunately I didn't get to ask her, so we'll have to kind of maybe check that out later. But I think that probably just moving on from that area, and from anyone, Kevin or anyone that has any comments on it, what key features would attract you to a particular resume from a student that's applying to a job?
I think that's good. So sometimes I know we want to do like colors and fun fair, maybe stuff like that, but keeping it simple to the point. Again, on average, a recruiter, hiring manager will look at your resume for like 6 to 9 seconds. So if you could show your friend your resume, have them look at it for 9 seconds, what jumps out? Is that what you want to jump out to the hiring managers or recruiters, right? So you can play around with bold, italics, underlining it to make it interesting. But I definitely think like practicing that and knowing that that's the amount of time we take a look at that will help you guys out.
Yeah, I actually had written a couple notes down, Lisa, before, and one of the things was exactly that. Keep the structure and format simple.
Mhm.
You know, again, they only have so much time. Don't make them try to hunt and figure out or use odd headings that typically aren't used to cover various topics, definitely. And also, and again, I'm not really that familiar with it, Carrie. You probably are, the applicant tracking systems. I mean, because again, a lot of times the resumes you upload get pushed through software. So that's another reason you want to keep the format, I think,
Yes.
simple and kind of in a Word format, right? I'm assuming.
I think I would say I would prefer PDF if you can, because sometimes Word will get jumbled as well. But that usually ends up working too, but PDF if you guys can.
And I actually used to work for a company where I did do that. So I actually used to screen resumes for Marion-Hurst Roussel in Kansas City. And one of the things we had to do is put them through a system that's like probably ages old now. It was RestTrack. And we had to screen, and the resumes would get kicked out for having too many bullet points and too pictures. You know, they would get kind of pushed aside. And then we'd have to go back and screen through those and kind of pull through, because there was a lot of great, obviously, candidates in there. So definitely simpler is better, for sure. So I definitely agree with that. And correct spelling is very important too. And certainly one of the things I'm going to add in here and is that candidates that are applying for these should know actually what degree they're getting specifically, because I would bet that the employers know. So that's one of my pet peeves with students, is to make sure they're listing everything correctly there. They're not undervaluing the degree that they're getting, their Bachelor of Science in Business Administration.
Right. Well, and then I'll just say my pet peeve as well, Lisa, is, and Carrie, I don't know how you view that. If they've got typos in their summary and they're not using proper sentence structures, especially what Kayla just said earlier, it's like, if you can't communicate, it's like next.
Yeah, and fast too. I mean, we're going through them quickly, so you definitely want to grab attention. So that brings me to another point that I actually didn't have a question on, but I wanted to address this with the panel. When you see the resume, you know, I tell the students, they're marking themselves as a student that's studying in a particular area, and then the activities that relate to that support that, their studies. And then work, you know, after that. But for the LinkedIn profile, many times I'll go to a LinkedIn profile and I'll see it doesn't really reflect that. It reflects like, yeah, I'm working at Schnucks. You think they need the same, I guess, is my question. Should they sync the same story, but maybe in more depth on LinkedIn as far as their profile is concerned?
Yeah, I think back to my point of because at a career fair, you would shake someone's hand, tell them about you, and then give over your resume. Whereas now that's kind of what LinkedIn's using for. And, you know, on your resume, you really want to do your top 3 jobs for the most part. And on there, you can go more in depth of the roles. If you have more things you were able to do or whatever, or promotions, you can deeper dive into that. But yeah, I try to keep the same message of at least what you're looking to do, right? I know we can create different resumes for different positions, but the whole brand of who you are and what you're hoping to accomplish should still show up no matter what format.
Yeah, I think where I have a little bit of an issue is if they are, let's say, a cashier at Schnucks, I don't really want to see their main title under their name, Schnucks cashier. That's a big mistake. And what I say to the students is, unless you want to be a Schnucks cashier the rest of your life, don't put that there. Put either kind of what you're studying at the university, use those prime real estate spots for those keywords that you know, so if a Carrie is searching for somebody with a certain skill, what is it that you want to be found on? Almost like SEO, search engine optimization, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I forgot you can do those titles of, you know, current student, future leader, finance, whatever that may be. That's a great point, because we do search by those key areas. So
I love that. That's great. And that's great for our students to know, because a lot of times they're not thinking that way. And that's why it is so important to have another set of eyes to look at these things before you submit them for a job, or before you, as you're doing your LinkedIn profile, completing it, is to have another set of eyes. Everybody needs someone to look at that, whether it's you're writing some copy, or you're writing a paper. You have to have the exercise because you overlook your own errors. It's natural. So it's definitely helpful.
Can I ask Lisa and Carrie a question? I'll play the moderator. So again, at UMSL, we have some non-traditional students who might be going back to school. They might have had some kids or took a pause for family. And I get myself in situations, as I'm sure you do, Lisa, but you're probably a little more equipped to handle it than I. How should they craft up that gap in employment, or that they stop for a time period? Is it fine just to be totally upfront and put that in there, especially, let's say, within their LinkedIn? I know that's kind of hard to put on a paper resume. I'm just curious what your guys' advice are on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should be your authentic self. Like, I would maybe turn the script and say that hiring managers and recruiters should be willing to talk through that, right? Like, you shouldn't be ashamed that you had to step
I'm in a meeting
or whatever you were
about digital marketing.
Uh-oh. Sorry, I'm getting some
Oh,
feedback.
Rachel, make sure you mute yourself. Okay, sorry, Carrie.
No, you're fine. But regardless, like, I totally think that you should own that, right? You took some time to do whatever that may be, and you're ready to get back out there. You can even add, like, in your design statement or branding, like, I'm looking to get back into after this or whatever. But I don't know, like, I wouldn't want to work for a company that's going to judge me on having to do what I needed to do for myself. So I don't know if that was a good enough answer, but
Yeah.
I agree with that too. I think that being your authentic self, but I think it's marketing too.
Yeah.
I think I think there's a way to put that out there, because I am totally impressed with people that have families that go back to school to improve themselves. And so I'm very impressed with that, but I want to see it reflected honestly on their resume. And obviously there will be a question, if you're looking through, you're going to ask, and you had a little bit of a lapse in time there. Could you share with me what that was about? Certainly. And they can certainly just tell you there's nothing. I think authentic is great. And certainly there are individuals that would make that real interesting. I've had that before too. They gave themselves the title for not just stay-at-home dad, but master of the universe, or or whatever. Very creative ways of saying, hey, I had a responsibility to raise young people and make sure they were okay for a few years while my wife was in school, or while she was. These are really things, and I think that our employers appreciate that honesty. So I don't think they hold that against them like in the past they would maybe have, not held it against them, but certainly said, oh, there's a lapse there, and you kind of went empty. What did you do to stay connected? And we know working in remote environments, it's easy to do that. You can very much stay connected. I guess, thank you for that question, Carrie. It was great. And I have a high level of respect for individuals that are returning to school or to the workforce after taking a leave of absence for family or other obligations, personal obligations. So now I guess I want to jump into anything else that we might be leaving out here. I think we kind of covered it for.
Well, Rebecca Clark just asked a great question that I may want to touch on, whereas maybe going back to school, not after kids, but career changers. And I can actually speak on that personally. So I went to Mizzou for fashion. So I studied visual merchandising, and I did that for 8 years. And I just didn't find a big passion in it anymore. And I needed a change. And so come pandemic, I took some time and reflected, and maybe I didn't go back to school, but I decided, okay, I'm going to be a career changer, right? But what I did is I used those transferable skills that I got from retail, working in management, what I had studied in school many years ago, and what can I do with those today in my next role? And I knew I wanted to get into recruiting. I love interviewing, guys. That's so crazy for me to say, but I love doing it in my past role, interviewing our employees. So it was really challenging to think, okay, how am I going to speak to working in a creative side to now wanting to bring people into a company? And the best way was working with my current network, finding people that already know me and my work ethic and how they could get me connected with other companies, right? That may, hey, I know Carrie's great. She's done great things. And that's how I got connected here at Northwestern Mutual. So I think just addressing that and using your own connections who already know you as a person, not you as the former nurse that wants to do now whatever else, that can absolutely help you get you to that next step. So hopefully that was helpful.
And then I saw somebody had put in chat something about a photo, I think. I don't know if that was Mona, the importance of a photo. And again, Carrie and Lisa, you guys can jump in too. I mean, I will, well, for my students in my digital strategies class, 30% of their midterm is their LinkedIn profile. So they have to have that polished for their midterm. And again, a good photo is a requirement. So, you know, I do tell them, you know, you can take a good selfie, just, you know, do it somewhat well and good lighting. But, you know, I just tell them, don't have somebody's shoulder cut off where you took an old photo where when you were at a wedding or things along those lines. Don't have a shot where you're like way back in the background because the recruiters want to see you. They want to see you smiling. They want to see that face. So is that important for you, Carrie, when you're kind of looking through there to a certain extent?
I think it helps. I don't know if it would, I don't know. That's super hard. I think in my message I always want to get across is if you want to be above average, do above average work, right? So I don't want to tell, if you don't want to put your photo, don't put your photo, but I think it's going to help you. If you put your photo and it looks professional, even if like you have to get a roommate or a random person to just take a picture of you in front of a blank wall, that's probably a little bit better than a selfie, right? Like physically holding it out. So again, I think it adds points or whatever we want to think about when it comes to comparing candidates. But again, it's your choice of adding that or not, but I totally think it helps.
But I think also is the job you're going for too. So let's say you're a highly creative, artistic person.
Absolutely.
You could have a really cool selfie, which captures your energy, and you have a good background on your LinkedIn, which is kind of, you know, it's behind your photo. That's kind of, if you're finance or accounting, that may not be appropriate.
Finance, I'm like, a suit looks good.
Yeah, brick wall for the background or whatever. Yeah, right. So
yeah,
definitely, right. And the only other thing, Lisa, I was going to add is, you know, I tell a lot of my students that, you know, let's get real. We all have some downtime here because of COVID. You know, we're not commuting as much. And I'm telling them to take advantage and get as many, just different certifications, get some other skills, even outside of school. And so many certifications are free, you know, in every aspect of life on, you know, creative softwares, customer relationship management tools, all of those sort of stuff. Why not do that? Spend a weekend, add those to your LinkedIn profile and your resume as well.
Oh, yes. And I think that's a great segue into my next what I was going to ask was, as a recruiter, what hard skills are you looking for in candidates or platforms or systems that, knowledge certifications that would help candidates stand out? And if not that, or what other items are you looking at to really kind of build out or round it out? You know, you've got a student, they're working in fast food, they're studying marketing at UMSL Business. What other things would you look for to kind of like, all right, they got that great profile on LinkedIn, but what other items would help them to really stand out?
Okay, so maybe my answer won't be the best towards marketing students because again, I work with a lot of finance students, but I know you guys have a ton of amazing like programs and stuff that are absolutely important. I mean, if you want to go into digital marketing, you should absolutely be proficient in any program that relates to that. So hard skills specifically for me would just be senior communication, right? And maybe that's like both soft and hard, but like, how do you present yourself? Are you responding to emails quickly? Like, I know that now you're obviously on your email, right? You care about getting that job and contacting with me. I mean, I'll see, you know, like Word, Excel. Again, that's super important. I kind of assume that people are doing that nowadays. So I would just go ahead and you might as well spend a weekend, like we said, just adding those certifications, because that does make you more above average, right? But I think if, yeah, your background is worked at a entry level serving job as a waitress or a waiter, whatever that may be, and you're also studying marketing, like build on that, right? That has shown you either leadership, or were you training other employees, right? I was talking to a candidate last week who just kind of threw out there like, oh, I've been promoted to trainer. I said, that's incredible, right? Now they want to create mini yous. That's a great compliment. So just thinking of what you've actually done in your past, you're like, okay, actually, that's really awesome. And then history of success, grit, compassion, listening skills, those stuff that I can't teach you in our internship program are incredible to emphasize, because in our internship program, we commit to working on your soft and hard skills, but some of that stuff I know I can't teach, right? So adding on top of that, coachability is big. If you were a former athlete, even in high school, or you do a club sport on the side, that's important to add as well. So hopefully that answered your question.
No, that's a great, thank you. It was all encompassing, because my next follow-up to that would have been, how do you view activities that students are involved with at school, and how important is that in the overall picture of a potential candidate that's a student?
Very important. I'm going to ask in any interview, what are you involved in on campus that you're the most proud of? Because I want you to talk to something that you actually care about. Don't put something on your resume that you can't speak to. I used to do this all the time in my last job, where sometimes college students will just load up their resume and I'll look at it and be like, how the heck do you even have time, right, to do anything? And I asked them about certain areas and they just went to like 2 meetings. We're not really involved in that, right? So again, really putting stuff on your resume that you're able to speak to, what you've been able to accomplish in that, or I mean, even if it is a club that you do attend, what do you enjoy about attending that, right? So I guess that would be my biggest tip, is don't just fluff it up just for the sake of like, this will make me look amazing. I actually want you to be able to speak to stuff.
Absolutely, thank you. I am agreeing.
And I think a lot of times, Carrie, students are just the opposite too. They don't put enough on there that they've done in the past as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And then, you know, I might be talking to a student and I find out they did X, Y, and Z and say, well, why in the hell isn't that on your LinkedIn? That's like
volunteer
fantastic.
work.
I can't believe you've done that. Yeah.
Like high school volunteer work. I know that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And even in the St. Louis area, I know a lot of, I'm not from St. Louis, but I've heard that that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know, outside clubs, did you teach kids a sport over the swim lessons, whatever? That, again, that stuff builds on your character and your time commitment. So yeah, I agree.
Lisa, can I ask Mona a question?
Sure.
So Mona is one of our about to be graduating MBA students, and she just landed a great gig, as Lisa and I know, at the St. Louis Art Museum as their social media manager, which is phenomenal, full-time job. And I know you were looking for a while. I think you even had the premium version of LinkedIn, Mona.
I did.
Is there, in a couple minutes or less, do you want to give tips to any of the people here as to kind of, hopefully some of the stuff we're saying is resonating with you and you're saying, yes, that's true, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
What you kind of experienced over your like 6 months of kind of looking here for this job. I just thought you could impart some wisdom here.
Well, what I really did during the pandemic is I registered, I attended so many seminars, and actually I attended probably like 4 to 5 LinkedIn seminars just on LinkedIn, how to optimize my LinkedIn profile. And I had like maybe 190 connections, and now I just checked, actually I'm like 450.
Wow.
So one of the things they always told me at these seminars, that if you have above 500 connections, that you actually are found way easier in the algorithm of LinkedIn. And also, like when you put your interests at the bottom, you should always make sure, like when you write PR, you also write PR and then public relations, not just one or the other. That really helps with recruiters when they look for you. Also, they said like it's nice to see if, like, for instance, you are currently working in something, like your LinkedIn banner, try to make it something, even if you're not working, try to make it something fun that actually relates to something you're doing. Like mine was me, like different women, one doing photography, one doing notes, one answering a phone call, one on a computer. So it's like, that's really what I did all the time when I was trying to land clients for like social media, freelance stuff in St. Louis. But yeah, I honestly, I kind of landed this job by just like, I knew that I wanted to work in the museum because I interned at a museum. So I connected with everyone at the Contemporary Art Museum where I interned. And then I actually added the director of marketing at the St. Louis Art Museum, and I started like slowly adding each one of them, and they all accepted. And then I think I actually messaged them telling them that I applied as the job, actually, because 3 months passed, I didn't hear anything, and the post of the job went away, and I was like, oh, maybe, they hired someone, it's fine. But turns out they were just like, they had so many applicants, and it took them a long time until they went through all of them. And yeah, so I think maybe that helped, like asking them like, I did apply, just let me know if this job is still available or not. Yeah.
And did they remember you were an intern, or you reminded them you were an intern there, Mona, or at another
I
nonprofit?
interned at the Contemporary Art Museum.
Okay.
But most of the people there actually know, like the museums here, everyone knows each other.
Right.
So they were like, oh yeah, the director of marketing at the Contemporary Art Museum said that you were great. So I was like, oh, you already checked my background. Sure, cool. Yeah. So
That's great. Follow up. I mean, a lot of students will walk away from opportunity and not follow up and say, contact the employer and say, hey, I applied for this a few weeks ago. I wanted to know if you were still reviewing. And at least it opens up, it's like a moment you can have to try to make a connection there. Certainly, if you haven't heard back from them. I mean, it's logical. Everybody follows up. You should follow up. Don't be intimidated. Definitely follow up for sure. And that was great, Mona. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mona.
Thank you.
I have a few other questions I kind of want to skim through regarding, and because we only have a few more minutes. Phone screening and virtual interviews. So what should students know about phone etiquette when a recruiter responds to their application? So they've applied for something, they're driving on the street, they're going to a volleyball intramural, they're going to be playing, and they get a phone call from an employer. What's your recommendation on phone etiquette, and actually how they should respond even if they aren't at the volleyball game?
That's totally Carrie.
Okay, easy answer. If you're gonna put your phone number down, make sure you're answering your phone. I don't mean to feel heated about this, but I will get applicants that put their phone number, and I will be very excited to call them, and they will never answer or check their voicemail. And so I think, okay, cool. Like they obviously don't find any importance to this internship, and they may have just been throwing their resume out there. So I think we have all gotten better about like knowing when a spam call is or not. And even if it is a spam call, you're easily able to hang up the phone if it's not something you want to encounter. So why not answer your phone if you're putting your phone number on there? And for email too, make sure you're putting an email that you actually check. I know when you're in school, you have a school email and a personal one. So which one are you actually looking at more? But then for phone etiquette, I think personally for me, I always call you to set up a time to talk later. So I don't know if I'm the best to speak on that because I know I'm just calling you off guard. But if you are emailing a resume or there's a spot in the application that you can put dates and times, make sure there are dates and times that you are available. So that way, if the recruiter is going to call and actually have a spur of the moment phone screening convo, that you're able to give them their full time and attention. So
or you can't just be polite and say, I'm really sorry. I'm at the grocery store at the moment. I'll be back home in 30 minutes. Can we? Yeah. So just be polite, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that too.
Right.
Absolutely, be prepared because the funny thing is well, it happens to all of us. We get phone calls at the most inconvenient times to what we're doing, and people take it for granted. If they don't see like what's listed on that phone, who's calling, whether it's Northwestern Mutual or if it's Boeing or whoever it might be, that they're going to take it for granted and not answer it.
Yeah.
And maybe not even follow up. So they might be missing out big time. So they really need to be on it if they're in the market for an opportunity, that they're really kind of paying attention to their phone, their emails, and so on and so forth.
Mona, did you want to jump in on something?
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that, like, the same thing with this job. Before they actually emailed me or anything, they gave me a call. I was watching TV.
I had no idea that you guys called before you. Okay, that's interesting.
I had no idea either.
I would have just thought emailed. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's what I was expecting. And she's like, "Hello, hi, this is Anne from the St. Louis Art Museum." And I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "I'm not ready for this." And I'm like, "Yes, hi." And she's like, "I just wanted to see when is a good time to talk to you." That's exactly what happened. And I'm like, "Oh, well, yeah, sure." I gave her like a bunch of dates. And then also I had like one actual interview, and then I had like a second interview. The second interview was like an hour and a half.
Wow.
And they called me half an hour earlier than when we expected. So, I mean, I would just say, like, try to free up just in case. I don't know if that was like a mistake or not, but it didn't seem like, I think they wanted to catch me off guard. Yeah, I was already ready, thank God. I had my coffee and everything. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, no, I'm glad you shared that. Thanks, Mona.
No worries.
What recommendations come from the panel would you have, or best practices would you like to share regarding preparing for I mean, we're doing it now, it's happening, Zoom interviews. What do you think are the most important things for a student or a potential candidate to keep in mind for a Zoom interview?
Yes, a list of things. I think I go into any meeting knowing that you're going to be with your camera on. Hopefully you have camera capability. If not, is there a way to get? Because a lot of times if a recruiter is setting up a Zoom interview, they want to speak to a person. So I would just think about that, making sure that you have a tidy background. Sometimes our interns will, join meetings in their bedroom, which is totally fine. Like, that's their workspace. But, if their bed is clean and made, that usually sets yourself up for success, right? And then you can tell your apartment or house, family, whoever, like, hey, I've got an important meeting today. Just try to stay quiet. Me and my boyfriend work literally next door. So I know when I talk all day on my job, but when he has important calls, I try to keep to myself as well. Looking professional too. I know it's nice, like, we can wear professional up and maybe cozy on the bottom, but again, make sure you feel good and ready to talk in whatever that looks like for you, right? So I would say the same rules still apply, even if you were to walk into a business and have an interview, making sure you look prepared. So
and are you, Carrie, are you okay with virtual backgrounds? Let's say you can't really find a necessarily clean place within your home for the backdrop. Are you with recruiters fine with that?
I'm totally fine with that. But again, I don't ever want to, like, I want to give you grace for the situation that you're in, right? Like, my dog sometimes will go insane. I know my partner, Danielle, she has kids that will come in sometimes and say hi to the person we're talking to. So we're people too. So yeah, I mean, that's never going to turn me off. Just make sure it's appropriate, I guess I should say. I've seen some people have like the office background. That was funny. I remembered that, right? So yeah, that's totally fine.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Thank you for that. I had a few other questions, but I know we're short on time, but I did want to ask this one of the panel. With what you know now, if you could go back in time, go back in the time machine to when you were a student, what would you do in order to be successful in landing an internship? I know it's a pretty broad question, but knowing what you know now, what would you do differently if you could do it again, or what would you recommend?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just going to say for Carrie, it's going to be a little easier to answer. For me, if I go back in time, there was no digital, Lisa. So I'm not sure what much more I could have done. I say it to the students a lot. I'm just so jealous of the day and age that they're growing up in, because they have access to so many people, information, data, ways to connect, ways to figure out which paths you want to take, which I didn't have. So I tell them, take advantage of it, utilize these tools strategically. You know, and so I'll just say, I wish I would have had that opportunity, Lisa, and, you know, God only knows what I could have accomplished had that been the case. You know, but back then I certainly did well, Lisa. I mean, I was a student at UMSL undergrad. I was the vice president of the mathematics club. We did a lot of, I mean, we worked relationships pretty well. We had 100 people in the mathematics club back in the early 80s, and we did a lot of networking. So kind of doing it, but not digitally in a way. So that's all I'll kind of say. But yeah, connections are important.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I would agree.
I'll just tell you what I would have done. I was like so excited to graduate that I didn't do my homework. I thought, okay, now I'm just going to kind of be on cloud 9 for about a month or 2 months. Don't do that, because you miss your opportunity. You've got to seize the moment while you're a student. You've got to do all of these things. And I tell students, it's almost like you have another class altogether. Aside of all the other things you're doing and activities, you have to spend time investing in yourself, your resume, setting time aside to look at tweaking your LinkedIn, getting connected to a mentor, and then doing it all, you know, rinse and repeat. You're going to do that for the rest of your career. You're going to be having to search for opportunities. So you really want to make sure that you get this and take advantage of it while you have the opportunity. I call it new puppy. Everybody loves a new puppy, and students are new puppies.
Right. Well, and you spoke of, you know, mentoring. I mean, mentoring could not be easier today. Now that we're in COVID, you know, it's easy to connect up with your mentor on a Zoom. Now you don't have to worry about trying to figure out a time to meet up at a coffee shop. So, I mean, why would you not want to try to capitalize on that? But
Carrie, I do miss those coffee shop meetings.
I know. So do I. So does the coffee shop, I'm sure. I was.
Coffee shop, you know, you're making your own coffee.
Right.
But wow, what a great panel.
Yeah, this was super.
It was amazing. I want to thank everyone. And we had a pretty good audience too, so I hope they got some great things from it. Obviously, all you have to do is reach out. You can reach out to me very easily by just shooting me an email. I think most students know who I am. If they don't, Lisa Fikki, you can find me in the global database address book. Carrie, it was great to connect with you once again. Mona.
Thank you so much for having me, everybody. If anybody is interested in internship, full-time opportunities in the financial services industry, feel free to reach out. We can connect, resume, stuff like that. I'm here.
And I know your partner, Danielle, offers helping students also.
Absolutely.
Out there. So the Northwestern Mutual team is just phenomenal.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Mona, for getting it all organized. Thanks, everybody.
Thank all of you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin.